afternoon. Welcome to another exciting edition of Reading with Mr. Eble. Still reading Grenade. So we're going to keep on reading it today and next week, and then probably a little bit of June as well. So today's chapter is Hideki, and it's called A Blessing. A soldier stood silhouetted in the little door to Hideki's family tomb. It was too dark to see if he was Japanese or American, and Hideki fumbled for one of the grenades in his pocket. He just got hold of one when the soldier stepped farther into the tomb. It was a Japanese soldier, a private. Hideki could tell from the single star on his collar. Otto put a hand on Hideki's arm, quietly signaling him to put away his grenade. "Welcome to the Kanishiro family tomb, Private Shinohara," the private said. He scanned the room with the wild urgency of a trapped animal. His uniform was torn and covered in dirt and blood. Somewhere along the way, he'd apparently lost his rifle, because all he carried was his sword. Hideki stood at attention. A private was the lowest rank in the Japanese army, but privates still outranked every boy in the Blood and Iron Student Corps. "Is there anybody else here?" the private demanded. "Have you seen any other soldiers from either side?" "No, sir," Hideki answered, careful to use Japanese. "Not since yesterday, but we're expecting a doctor soon." Private Shinohara scoffed. "A doctor? Ha!" His eyes fell on the stone bowl with its tiny offering of food, and he pounced on it, scooping out the rice and stuffing it in his mouth. "Hey, what are you doing? Stop," Hideki said, forgetting the private's rank. "That's an offering. You can't eat that." Hideki's father reached out for him again. "Hideki, don't." The private ignored them both and ate the rice. Hideki burned inside, but there was nothing he could do. Besides outranking Hideki, the private was bigger and stronger than he was, and the private had a sword. When the private was finished gulping down the rice, he grabbed one of the large urns off a shelf and moved it near the door. "What are you doing?" Hideki cried again. "This is my family's tomb. This is a sacred place." "It's an IJA base now," the private told him. Hideki looked to his father for help, but Otto had his eyes closed and was slumped over to the side again. Where was that doctor? Private Shinohara went to pull another urn from the shelf, and Hideki grabbed his arm and tried to yank him away. The private threw Hideki to the ground and pulled his sword from its scabbard with a shing. It glinted in the dim light from the entrance. "Get out," the private roared. "This is my hiding place. Get out. This cave is for army personnel only." "This tomb belongs to me and my family," Hideki told him. "Besides, I'm in the army too. I'm in the Blood and Iron Student Corps." The private looked incredulous. "You're not in the real army. You're not even real Japanese. Get out." The private took a swing at Hideki with his sword, and Hideki jumped back out of the way. Hideki's blood boiled. He was being attacked by someone from his own side in his own family's tomb. He thought about going for a grenade again. But what was he going to do? Blow up a Japanese soldier? And himself and his father and his family tomb with him? But they couldn't stay here with Private Shinohara. The man was crazy. Hideki got under his father's shoulder and lifted. Otto moaned in pain, but he stood, putting most of his weight on his son. Hideki steered them toward the door. Anger rose in Hideki like the tide. This was stupid. They shouldn't have to be running from their own family's tomb, but Hideki didn't see that they had any other choice. Private Shinohara kept his sword pointed at them the whole way, a mad gleam in his eyes. Get out, he roared. "If you Dojin could defend your own stupid island, I wouldn't even be here." Hideki picked up the sack with the pictures of the Emperor, and he and his father staggered out into the rain. They made it as far as a nearby banyan tree before they both collapsed in a heap. Otto cried out again. "I'm going to get you a doctor," Hideki said. He stood up to go, but Otto called him back. "No, Hideki, don't leave me." "But you said someone was on the way." "Yes, death is on the way for me, Hideki," his father said. "There's no doctor coming. I came back to our family tomb to die." Hideki's insides felt hollow. His father had been lying to him. Hideki had suspected it all along, but he hadn't wanted to believe it. And now it was too late. Hideki dropped to his knees and sobbed. "No, Otto, no." "Don't cry, Hideki. This is a blessing." "A blessing?" Hideki said. "I got to see you again," his father said. It was harder and harder for him to breathe. "I'd never thought I'd see any of you again before." Otto's eyes were a million miles away. "Going to be all right," Hideki told him. "Going to find a doctor. You're going to live." But Hideki's words were empty, and they both knew it. "I should have kept our family together," Otto muttered. "There's nothing you could have done," Hideki told him. "There's nothing any of us could have done." "You must find your sister," Otto said. He stopped to cough. "Forget this war and those stupid photographs. Find Kimiko now and get yourselves to safety. That's all that matters." You died a hero, Otto, Hideki said, fighting for Japan. I'll tell everyone. His father laughed. It turned into another painful cough. I'm no hero. I was so scared I pissed my pants. I was hit as I was running away. Hideki was stunned. But I'm the one who carries Shigetomo's curse, not you. Shigetomo wasn't a coward, Hideki's father said. He was brave, braver than any of us. I understand that now, and I hope one day you will too, before it's too late. Shigetomo brave? Hideki couldn't believe what his father was saying. Otto grabbed Hideki's jacket. His eyes were wide, desperate and pleading. Find your sister. Promise me you'll find her. I promise, Otto, Hideki said, frightened. Yes, good. His father let go of him and slumped back against one of the roots hanging down from the branches of the banyan tree. There are evil spirits all around, Hideki, more than ever, but evil can only run in a straight line. Keep changing course so the evil can't catch. Otto's eyes still glistened, still stared up into the falling rain, but his chest stopped rising and falling. His body settled down into the mud. Hideki's father was dead. No, no, Otto, come back, Otto, Hideki sobbed. He lay across his father's chest and cried as he hugged him goodbye. Hideki couldn't carry his father back into the family tomb, not with Private Shinohara there. And he didn't have a shovel to bury him. He would have to leave him here, underneath this banyan tree, and come back later, after the war, and give his father a proper burial. Until then, Hideki would fulfill his father's dying wish and do the thing Otto had failed to do in life. No matter where she was, no matter what she was doing, Hideki would find his sister. The next chapter. It's about Ray. It's called Monster. Ray and his squad were a few hours into their rainy march when he heard explosions. He ducked instinctively, but the bombs weren't on top of them. Not yet. Japanese mortars, Big John said. Things weren't going well on the front lines, so as Big John had promised, the 1st Marines were being ordered south to fight there. The soldiers of the Army's 96th Division, currently fighting at the front, were to swap places with them, continuing the lighter duty of clearing caves and securing the northern part of the island while they recuperated. How can you tell one explosion from another? Ray asked. You get shot at enough times, you get to recognize the sound, Big John told him. You haven't faced mortars yet, have you, Barbecue? The old man asked, walking alongside them. Mortars lob bombs at you from a long way off, like a long fly ball. The old man whistled while he made an arcing motion with his hand. A lot of new guys, they don't know the secret to running through mortar fire. Run zigzag? Ray guessed. The old man shook his head. No, you run straight away. No turning, no looking back. That's how you survive a mortar attack. Stay low, don't bunch up, and run like hell, Ray thought. Just what the sergeant had told him as they came off the boat. Sergeant Meredith, that was. Ray had to remember that Big John was the sergeant now. Stark's long legs took him on ahead, and Big John fell in beside Ray as they walked. I love the old man like a brother, Big John said, but he's dead wrong about how to survive a mortar attack, Barbecue. Ray frowned. I should run zigzag after all? No, the secret to running through artillery is that it doesn't matter what you do, he told Ray. You zig, you may make it. You zag, you may get hit. There's a bomb or a bullet or a grenade out there with everybody's name on it. If it's going to get you, it's going to get you. That was a hell of a way to live your life, Ray thought, knowing that death could catch up to you any second and that nothing you did made a difference. Ray wondered again about his father in the First World War, hiding in foxholes, pinned down by Germans, listening to the bombs explode all around him. Had he also expected death any second? Was that what had broken him, made him into a monster? Ray touched the long scar on the inside of his left arm and remembered how he'd gotten it. Ray had been shooting a rifle since he was 6, and every winter it was his job to shoot the hogs before he and his father had to butcher them. It had been the same every year until he was 11 years old. That year, Ray's father had stood to the side with his butcher knife, like always, waiting for Ray to put down one of the pigs. But that year, everything went wrong. Usually, one .22 rifle slug was enough to kill a pig. But this pig didn't die with one shot. It took the bullet and squealed, staggering away. The high-pitched screeching was the most awful thing Ray had ever heard, and he immediately fell sick. He hadn't meant for the pig to suffer. Ray hurried to take aim with his rifle again to put the poor thing out of its misery, and that's when his father had gone crazy. No, Ray's father screamed. Stay away from him. Get away. And suddenly he ran at Ray with the butcher knife. Ray got the rifle up just in time to block the first of his father's slashes, but the next one caught Ray on the inside of his left arm, carving a deep gash from his wrist almost all the way down to his elbow. Ray screamed and dropped the rifle. He ducked his father's next attack and ran for the house, clutching his arm to his chest. His mother drove him to the hospital for stitches. When they got back, his father wouldn't look him in the eye. Papa had never apologized, never tried to explain, and none of them had spoken a word about what had happened ever again. As many times as Ray had replayed that day in his head, he had still never understood exactly what it was that had set his father off. Was it the gunshot, the pig squealing, Ray chasing it down? Like all the other times, his father had gotten violent and unpredictable. There's no understandable reason for it. But that time had been the worst. That time it had cost Ray 2 pints of blood and the last bit of love he'd had for his father. Okinawans! Someone yelled, waking Ray from his reverie. Refugees coming through the lines! Ray instinctively tightened his grip on his rifle, and he saw the other Marines raise theirs under the rain capes. Big John had kept Sergeant Meredith's new rule about not killing Okinawans, but any encounter made the squad jumpy. There's no mistaking these people as anything but refugees, though. Their hair and clothes were filthy. They had scratches and poorly bandaged wounds, and none of them looked like they'd had a good meal in a month. But the worst part was the fear on their faces, like Ray and all the others were the most frightening monsters they'd ever seen. Some of them couldn't even look at the Marines, they were so scared. They're so frightened of us. What are they doing here? Ray wondered. He lowered his rifle and started for a woman with a baby in her arms. Some of them are Jap soldiers, Big John cried. Ray watched in stunned horror as a Japanese soldier dressed as one of the Okinawans tossed aside the ratty blanket he hid beneath and shot the old man dead. More Japanese soldiers did the same, and all hell broke loose. Don't let 'em through! Shoot, shoot, shoot! Big John yelled, and the Marines opened up on them. They didn't know who was Japanese and who was Okinawan, and they didn't want to find out. When the last rifle fired, the Marines stood in the pouring rain, surrounded by bodies. Some of the dead were American Marines, some were Japanese soldiers, but many more of them were Okinawans, refugees who had needed their help. Ray let the tip of his rifle drop into the mud and looked around in horror. In his panic, he fired round after round into the crowd. He had to have killed innocent Okinawans. He knew it. In just a few awful seconds, he had become the monster these people were so afraid of. More of a monster than his father had ever been. And the worst part was, Ray knew he would do it again when he had to. So we will stop there. We'll keep on reading every day at 12. We'll post this up on YouTube as well. So if you missed it, you can check it out up on there or in the previous chapters as well. So students, keep working hard. Got one more week of school left. Keep taking care of each other. Most importantly, stay safe. And remember, range is the way.